millones de euros para ayuntamientos. La segunda línea imprescindible es la investigación, I+D. En este sentido, el Fondo Climático está, junto con el Departamento de Acción Climática y el Departamento de Universidades e Investigación de la Generalitat, tienen una línea de subvenciones para investigación en temas de cambio climático, dotada con 14 millones de euros. Los mejores centros de investigación de Cataluña se han juntado, se han unido para ofrecer soluciones a la sociedad civil, al Gobierno y a las empresas, soluciones, algunas de ellas tecnológicas, para adaptarnos mejor a esta realidad. Pero quizás la que más interese hoy aquí es la tercera pata de este fondo climático, que es las ayudas a las empresas. No las hemos dejado atrás, no las hemos olvidado y en este sentido tenemos un programa que se llama ProAction Green, que hacemos con el Departamento de Empresa, con Acció, que seguro que conocen muy bien, y que consiste en una serie de cupones, ¿no?, de subvenciones a empresas para que hagan el cambio, para que inviertan en transición energética, para que adapten sus procesos industriales a todo esto que les decía de los efectos que ya tenemos aquí del cambio climático. 18 millones de euros que el Gobierno de Cataluña está trasladando a las empresas para ayudar a hacer de forma un poco más acelerada este cambio. Pero es que además este fondo climático, que insisto, solo se nutre con 7 euros de cada ciudadano de Cataluña que tienen un coche contaminante, también financia otro tipo de proyectos que les llamamos proyectos singulares. Y les voy a dar algún ejemplo. Un proyecto singular es la compra de 80 autobuses eléctricos que permiten entrar a Barcelona y reforzar el sistema de transporte público para sacar coches de las ciudades. Un proyecto singular es la creación de la energética. La energética es la empresa pública de producción y venta de electricidad de fuentes renovables que ha creado el Gobierno de Cataluña y que tiene el objetivo que en 10 años todas las escuelas, todos los centros sanitarios y todos los edificios públicos del Gobierno de Cataluña tengan placas fotovoltaicas para que su consumo sea 100% sostenible. 25 millones para la creación de esta compañía. Con esto les quiero decir dos cosas. Que el cambio climático ya está aquí, que en Cataluña somos conscientes de que tenemos que invertir desde la parte pública para ayudar a los privados a hacer este cambio, a tomar conciencia, pero a hacer también este cambio y que lo estamos haciendo solo con 7 euros de cada ciudadano que invierte, que no está contento de pagar, porque los impuestos nadie está contento de pagarlos, pero que invierte en esta adaptación al cambio climático. Pero como además se decía antes, ¿no?, el Mediterráneo es una de las zonas del mundo donde el cambio climático está más acelerado. La sequía en Cataluña, los incendios en Grecia, las inundaciones en Grecia o en Tunisia de los últimos meses son una realidad y tenemos que ser conscientes de esos. Compartimos problemas, pero podemos compartir soluciones y en este sentido, en la COP28 presentaremos una iniciativa que hemos liderado entre las regiones de Cataluña y California, que es el Mediterranean Climate Action Partnership. Había un mapa en la presentación anterior de las regiones de clima mediterráneo del mundo, ¿no? California, Baja Sur en México, Chile, Sudáfrica, toda la cuenca mediterránea, Australia. Estas regiones nos hemos unido porque tenemos problemas comunes, pero podemos tener soluciones comunes. Lo presentaremos en la COP28. Y sin alargarme más, Espero que esta conferencia inicial haya sido de su interés y que la jornada de hoy sea muy provechosa. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, señora Boyo. Ya para finalizar, lamento que vamos con un poco de retraso, sobre todo para los próximos ponentes del Mediterráneo del futuro, que yo creo que va a ser una apuesta importante también esta Medaweek. Agradecer a Digital Reality su apoyo y su colaboración con nosotros también. Y sin más, pues agradecer a todos los que habéis participado en esta jornada inicial. Vamos a intentar hacer el café en unos 15 minutos para poder ganar tiempo y que la próxima sesión empiece en unos 15 minutos, no en 30 minutos. Gracias, y no tenemos que olvidar, digamos, de que justicia climática, financiación climática, inmigrantes climáticos van a ser las palabras que vamos a escuchar mucho. Gracias.
I don't like it the straight way. We're in the middle of something. We're here to stay, and we raise our heads for the color red. I'm in the first row on your show. In the first row on the first floor. somewhere and get it on tonight. Let's get it on. I got a girl, but you look good tonight. You look so good, baby. It's one-on-one tonight. Me and you, baby. Tonight. Girl, if it's alright. Alright. Let's go somewhere and get it on tonight. Get it on. You shouldn't have to be alone tonight. Yeah, yeah. It's one-on-one tonight. One-on-one, baby. Tonight. Yeah. Now she's looking at me, but keep talking. Oh, now she tryna ice you. Let's start walking over on the dance floor. It's her fault, but what can she do? Tell me, baby. Yeah. Girl, if you're ready, I'm ready. We can get it on. I know where I've been wrong. With you is where I belong. If I could find the words to say, you say it. I gotta get away from a love that kills me every day. Every day, yeah, yeah. Girl, if it's alright, let's go somewhere and get it on tonight. I got a girl, but you look good tonight. You look so good, girl. It's one-on-one tonight. Tonight. Girl, if it's alright, let's go somewhere and get it on tonight. Let's go somewhere. You shouldn't have to be alone tonight. You look so good, girl. It's one-on-one tonight. Me and you tonight, baby, tonight. Yeah, yeah. Oh. One-on-one, one-on-one. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Girl, if it's alright, let's go somewhere and get it on tonight. Get it on, get it on. I got a girl, but you look good. So do you know my situation? It's one-on-one tonight. Get it on tonight. Get it on, baby. Girl, if it's alright, my baby's stressing me. You need to come with me. We need to go somewhere. Yeah. Tonight, tonight. Girl, if it's alright, let's go somewhere and get it on tonight. I got a girl, but you look good tonight.
It's Kelpie
Yeah,
Vibes.
yeah. Baby, you know that I'm in a choco. Baby, you know that I'm in a choco. Baby, you know that I'm in a choco. Angelina, you the cool in my temperature. If you call, I go come deliver. I no go fall in your hand never. So now me you could love forever. I'm a cocky no feeble letter. I'm a Angelina, with my Angelina. Oh me all down. Anytime when I see you for the club or the television, your body. Sure you know say the thing when you carry 50 kill somebody. You know I feel a vibe, you feel a vibe, so baby whine about me. Yeah, and I know you shy, but it's cool when we're making love. On the low, on the low,
Hello. Last call for the coffee. Please finish your coffee. See if this is going to work. Yeah. Okay. Couple of seconds. Please take your seats, fasten your seat belts, and we're going to hit it. Okay, hello everybody. My name is Robert Assink. I'm Managing Director of Digital Realty in Spain and overseeing Croatia in the Mediterranean. And we're going to talk about the relationship of digital infrastructure and economic development, very much linked to the topic of Medaweek. So, welcome to Barcelona, lovely city. And we are here at this building, also historic, emblematic, also known for the commerce, and which is also a topic that I'm going to discuss. So very convenient to have this chat at this building. I'm going to talk about the core digital infrastructure of modern society. What does it do for the economy? And what can the digitalization that is taking place in data centers do with the sustainable economy? Okay, first, what is a data center? Data center is, there's plenty of data centers, but I will explain what is the role of a data center in your economies? What can it be? So it will start with let me see, there should be a video. Oh no, that's the next one. So data centers are at the heart of the Mediterranean digital future, in general, of the digital future. And data centers allow that there will be the digital services for the public administration, the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, education online, virtual reality. You can do your WhatsApp on your mobile phone, robotics, anything that touches you every day that's taking place in data centers. Without you probably knowing it, there's a physical infrastructure for which you use networks, fiber networks, and physical data centers. So we are the heart of modern society. So here's a small video of what does a data center look like. Many people think of a data center about data, and of course, that's inside those data centers, but what we are doing as a company, Digital Realty, and with us other companies, we build and manage these buildings. That's the physical infrastructure. And inside those buildings, our customers manage those digital services. So here you see a building, which is a render of a building which is under construction here in Barcelona. And see if it starts running. Yeah. So we are ripping off the layers of the building to see what's inside. It's a highly advanced engineering. Takes a long time to engineer it and to figure out every little piece inside. There's here you see a lot of cabinets which will house all the computers, and the other elements that you see here is all electrical and mechanical infrastructure. Yeah? And that's all needed to operate or to provide service to any digital service that you will use as a company and as a consumer. Yeah? This is done with a simulation, and there's millions of bits and pieces inside that building, very critical for today's society. Typically, in this case, there's mechanical infrastructure on the roof for energy backup and for cooling production. Cooling is very important in those data centers because they're highly intensive in electricity use. I will come back to that a little bit later. But so if we talk about data centers in this case, data centers that we operate is managing this infrastructure. It's not managing the services that take inside, because those are the customers. We'll come back to that later. Okay, this is one of the sectors that has still a very high investment all over the world, and growth, which brings also economic development, is one of the things. You can compare those data centers with an airport. An airport is a hub for passengers where multiple airlines come together. They serve customers going to one place and coming from one place and then going to another, even by plane or also by other means of transport. But it's the company that operates that infrastructure of the airport is providing service to the different airlines. That's what a data center is about. We don't run, like the airport operator do not run the airlines. In the same way, a data center operator doesn't run the digital services inside those data centers. So, but in a data center, in an airport, there's also other businesses around that airport, other means of transportation. Can be the metro, the bus, the train, personal park for your car, for your personal car. There's shopping malls, there's handling of equipment, all types of services around this passenger with certain needs. A data center does the same thing, but instead of having the passenger as a nexus, we have data as a nexus. So we are the airport of the digital economy. So those buildings are very critical to today's society, very capital intensive. Typically in any building that anybody could build, either a house or office building or logistics or industry plant or something, it's 85% civil works and 50% installation. In these buildings, it's the other way around. 50% is bricks and mortar, civil works, and 85% is installations. Very capital intensive in the components of that data center. Two things are relevant for that type of buildings. It's access to power, electricity, and connectivity, fiber. In the other panel later on, we will talk about the connectivity piece to explain how all things connect and how the Mediterranean connects between the regions around that area. And examples of things that are taking place inside those data centers, from anything, things that mentioned here, cloud computing, the digital media, everything that you do on your mobile phone, the gaming, social networks, digital public services, e-health, corporate IT, anything that has to do with some digital services, typically are served from computer managed by a company inside those data centers. Going to the next piece of what does a data center or data centers in general do for the economy. We carried out a research, in this case in Madrid, where there was a report in 2018 and 2021, a follow-up, where there was based on input-output tables, taking all the data related to what we do and what do we create as an impact. And for every €1 million that we invest in a data center, there's an impact in the regional GDP of 9 till 12 million. 9 million in a current state of just let the private sector do what they're doing, and up to 12 million if there's a collaboration with the public administration to foster and promote that industry by facilitating the business. In the case of Barcelona, we are about to publish a similar report, and this factor today is a multiplier of 7 and 8. As we speak, we are about to publish an international report for multiple cities in the world, amongst them various cities in the Mediterranean region, I don't have that data yet, but it will be published in the coming months to establish that same relationship. Here you see there's 3 scenarios that in case we would stay the way we are operating today, in the first column with the things, okay, if you invest 100 million, there's about 1.2 billion investment in IT equipment related to that. In the direct, indirect, and induced investment by that 100 million, there's another almost 1 billion, 944 million euros investment in the regional economy, and a creation of jobs of a little bit over 300. Subsequently, if you move up from below to the top, the second scenario is, okay, a little bit of stimulus with positive measures, and the top line is creating a digital hub, which we believe is going to take place in the Mediterranean area, and the second panel will explain that, by creating the region of the Mediterranean into a digital hub and a place to interconnect different continents. So in that scenario, if there's if everybody working together, instead of investing 100 million, probably the private sector would multiply that investment by 5. So 500 million, then the multiplier would be 12, so creating 6 million of investment into equipment, another 6 billion for the regional economy, and close to 2,000 jobs. Here's the same thing explained in other words. What does it do in the local economy in the first column? Second is the digital infrastructure, and the third is the digital economy. So here you can read that there's impact amplifiers in the middle, where with different aspects like new architectures and value-added services are being developed, global competition standards will be enhanced. Also, cloud giants are investing in their infrastructure. That's taking place as we speak in Spain as well. In Italy, that's happening. In Greece, it is happening. In different countries, it is happening. And we expect that will take place in other countries in this region as well. So the digital economy is also an aspect or a factor that is an engine for the use of renewable energy. Most of the companies that operate data centers like ours were born in the early 2000s, late 90s, or even a little bit later, 2010 or something like that. And we all have our in our blood the purpose of doing good to society. And therefore, most of us, we all use 100% renewable energy. Also, the customers demand that from us. So what is needed to grow that digital economy? We believe it will come to most of the countries represented here. And from the public administration, what they need to do, I believe, to create that digital hub effect is first understand these are critical to those economies, facilitate permits, licenses, and simplify processes. Also promote the region. Here, this is a good event to do that as a Mediterranean region, but every individual country should be doing the same to promote attracting investment in those infrastructures, critical to development of your country. And for the economy, we see that the education system needs to be adapted. Yeah? We need new skills, like the people that need to do the coding, software stuff. But I say also old capabilities, because there's a huge lack of people that need to take a screwdriver and know electrical and mechanical stuff. Those data centers are important to run and keep them operating with people that have a different skill set, and now the youngsters do not intend to do that any longer. So there's a scarcity and well-paid jobs, engineering with industrial, mechanical, and electrical engineering. Energy, very important in all countries where data centers are being developed, that the electrical backbone needs to be planned in collaboration with the private sector. A typical building, a large data center, could use as much energy as maybe a town of 80 or 100,000 persons. So where normally a whole industrial area would have energy for many buildings, in this case, a single building would use the same capacity as a whole area. Renewable energy production, very important, especially in the Mediterranean. We've seen that in other places or in the other presentations. It will be easier for this area of the world to create that renewable energy, solar power and wind. And then that takes me to the next part, which is the sustainability. What's happening in those data centers is digitalization. The companies that are using those data centers are of the likes of all the high-tech names, yeah, the Microsoft, the Amazons, the Googles, the Facebooks, the Apples of this world, but also more specialized companies that deliver network services, network securitization, protection against cybersecurity, we heard that before, but also companies that are not technology companies, but use technology to carry out their own activity. So we engaged some researchers and did a report on what's the relationship between digitalization and sustainability. And there's a binomial, we found out, and found out that there's digitalization is a necessary condition to achieve environmental sustainability. Certain media, they tend to point a finger to those companies that use a lot of energy as bad guys. Here it's the opposite. The more energy this industry uses, the greener, the more sustainable the environment. First, because of using green or renewable energy, but second is what I'm going to explain now. DESI, which is the Digital Economy and Society Index of all European member states, they have a ranking. And they measure 4 main points, which is human capital, connectivity, integration of digital technology, and the digital public services. Based on the multiple points of that ranking, there's a score for your country. Here on this graph, you'll see that the European average is a little bit over 50 points, somewhere in the middle, and then you can find your country to the left or to the right of that. There's a relationship here. It says, okay, the level of digitalization and the emission of CO2. On the horizontal axis, you see the DESI index, and on the vertical axis, the CO2 emissions in tons per capita per year. There's a curve, and there's all the spots of the countries there. The more you move to the right, the lower the emissions will go, or they level off. And in this one, we call it the Kuznets curve. And here we see there's the GDP per capita with the CO2 emissions per capita as well. And there's a turning point that if a country has $14,000 GDP per capita, the CO2 emissions per capita start reducing. Typical in the countries that are still in industrial development, they pollute and they start polluting a little bit more. But the more you digitalize, you reach a turning point and then it starts reducing. Because by using a digital service, you avoid the emission of CO2 in alternative uses. A very easy example to understand is home working. If you work from home, you use a digital service and you avoid moving in a car or a train or whatever from A to B. Yeah? Then the relationship between the CO2 emissions and this DESI index, the turning point here is almost 49 points on that scale of the DESI. The third yellow point on this graph is the position of Spain in this case, but you can plot your own country against that and see when the CO2 emissions per capita are going down. This is an example of what would digitalization do to different industries: construction, agriculture, energy, transportation, manufacturing. with a combined CO2 reduction of almost 5,000 tons of CO2 per year. Yeah? This is only because of using digitalization, doing things in a smarter way, knowing what you're going to do, where to place your resources, how to optimize energy efficiency, and how to avoid electricity use and CO2 emissions. So here, then, in general, that's the case for Spain. You could do a similar study for your own country. For every point of increase in the DESI index, there would be a reduction of 142,000 tons of CO2. How much is that? Well, it's just a number. In the case of Spain, 142,000 tons of CO2 emissions is the same as the whole financial sector that produce in Spain. How much emissions do they have as a joint business? Another data here, data centers. What do they do? Like, they use a lot of energy, but these are data from the International Energy Agency, where you see on the graph, internet traffic has multiplied by 5 between 2015 and 2021, whereas the data center workloads have increased by 3, but the energy usage has stayed the same. This is only because of improved energy efficiency measures of the data center operators. This is on top of what digital services do to the general economy. As an industry, we are very proactive, work with the European Commission, and we've signed a climate-neutral data center pact with all constituents of the industry. We have a code of conduct for the data centers, also to be responsible with the use of water, recycling, energy efficiency. We set standards that probably will be turned into directives and adopted by national laws to comply with certain energy efficiency measures. And that is all for now, with 2 conclusions. So data centers, they will come to your country. You will need them to build modern society and drive economic growth. And it is a real solution for creating a more sustainable economy. So it very much links to what we had in the former chat on the climate impact. Data centers are part of the solution. Yeah? Thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Victor, and I've been part of Digital Realty's team for more than 10 years. While we're trying to get my presentation to work, I just want to start with saying that it's a pleasure to be in Barcelona, which is one of my favorite places on earth, and it's an honor to be part of the 17th edition of Medaweek. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to introduce not just Digital Realty, but also our vision for the Mediterranean region. So I did a little bit of traveling this year. I've been very fortunate. I attended different conferences, met with different companies in places like Singapore, also in Kenya and Ghana on the east and west coast of Africa, as well as in Washington, D.C. And most of my conversations had one thing in common. Most of the companies I met are very curious, very interested to learn more about what's happening in the Mediterranean. But before I try to explore the question why, let me please introduce you to 1 minute on the internet in 2023. So every 60 seconds, we sent out more than 230 million emails. We spent 1 million hours streaming content online. We view more than 170 million different videos on TikTok, and we share more than 1.7 million pieces of content on Facebook. Every 60 seconds, just on Amazon alone, we spent more than €500,000. And every 60 seconds, we buy 84 million euros worth of cryptocurrencies. We use more and more content, not just because we spend more time online or because more people have access to the internet, but also because our content is getting better. Our phones have better cameras, which gives us better videos and better photos, of course. And our digital infrastructure is improving, which gives us better digital services for the private, public sector as well. But growth like this doesn't just happen every day, for one day. There's a lot of things that had to happen in order for us to come here. Allow me to please introduce Digital Realty, which is the largest global data center platform in the world. We've invested more than 21 billion euros to develop our portfolio of more than 300 data centers spread across 28 countries on 6 continents. But we don't build terrestrial fiber networks, and we don't build subsea cables, which have now become the blood vessels of our digital economies, with more than 98% of the traffic between the continents flowing through subsea cables and less than 2% through satellites. So when I say this to my friends from outside of the industry, typically the next question is, so you work with data or you just power the IT servers of different companies? And my answer is always very far from it. Digital Realty provides the meeting place where companies, content, data, and different technologies can come together. We typically create communities of interest. Think about it as a physical marketplace for digital services, where we enable our customers and our partners to enter one digital data center platform and connect between each other seamlessly, regardless of whether they're part of the same facility, same campus, same building, or whether they are on the other side of the globe. So let me give you a few quick examples. Imagine, for example, a network service providers like Telefónica. They may want to be part of our facilities so that they can interconnect their network with other network service providers so that we as businesses and individuals can access the whole of the internet from our homes and our devices. Our favorite platforms such as Netflix, Disney, YouTube, TikTok, they also may want to be part of our facility so that their content can reach our devices at home or in our pockets. Or imagine a global accountancy firm which has already deployed most of their workload into the public cloud. They still need a reliable way to transfer data to and from the cloud. So in our facilities, they can securely connect to any of their preferred cloud providers, regardless of whether they're part of the same facility or on the other side of the globe. And we do this with a very strong focus on sustainability. We are the biggest buyer of sustainable power from all data center providers. 100% of our colocation businesses across North America and Europe are exclusively powered by renewable energy. And we're also the data center provider that has certified the most number of green data centers in the world. So why are we, together with our customers and partners, so interested in the Mediterranean? Well, if you drop a pin in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea and you draw a radius big enough, let's say close to 4,000 miles, you soon find out that half of the world's population lives within that radius, 4 billion people. And those 4 billion people also generate almost half of the world's GDP. And if we only focus onto the Mediterranean, We have more than 500 million people living across the 21 countries that border the Mediterranean Sea, and they generate more than 8 trillion euros of combined GDP. And the digital share of those economies are increasing year over year. But also the location of the Mediterranean Sea. It's in between few continents, Europe, Asia, and Africa. A lot of the content that originates from North America as well as South America and is destined to reach the populations of Africa, Middle East, or the rest of Asia, it all flows through the Mediterranean. For example, Barcelona can now provide the quickest access from the east coast of the US to any side of the Mediterranean Sea. Egypt and the Suez Canal acts as the gateway for any traffic that goes into Eastern Africa, Middle East, or Asia. And for most of that content to leave Europe, in one shape or another, it goes through Marseille, which is the major hub on the Mediterranean. And for these improvements to happen, different things had to come together. Different industries, such as terrestrial network providers, subsea cables, content and cloud companies, as well as enterprises, they all had to time and synchronize their investments so that we, together as one industry, can provide one holistic solution for our digital infrastructure to our society. A very successful example of how these stakeholders and industries came together to create a very successful interconnection hub is Marseille in south of France. Back in 2014, Digital Realty had only one data center with 2 megawatt power capacity. And we indeed had 11 subsea cables that were already connecting to our campus in Marseille. However, the role of Marseille was more of a transit location where traffic was just passing through Marseille in order to reach the populations of places like Madrid, London, Frankfurt, or the rest of the big cities. There were 40 different connectivity providers that would handling that traffic and passing that traffic through to the capitals of Europe. Today, Marseille is much more than a transit location. Today, we have 17 different subsea cables connecting into the city, coming from all around the world. And to get there, to achieve that, we had to have a stronger connectivity foundation and more data center space. So today, for less than 10 years, Digital Realty operates 4 data centers with total power of almost 50 megawatts. But more importantly, we now have more than 200 different connectivity providers, telecom companies, that take that traffic and they don't only route it to the rest of the European capitals, but they manipulate that data, they bundle it together with various applications before it leaves Marseille, which transform Marseille into an interconnection hub on the Mediterranean. And those 200 companies, they talk to each other. We have more than 10,000 individual different physical connections between them, as opposed to only 1,300 less than 10 years ago. And now, in order to show you our vision for the Mediterranean, this slide puts together the total capacity, the total traffic capacity of these subsea cables that are connecting one way or another into the Mediterranean. You see that Lisbon receives an important role. It gets traffic from the west coast of Africa as well as from South America. And then Egypt receives a lot of traffic to and from the Mediterranean, acting as the gateway hub. And we see Marseille having a leading role in all of that as the gateway to and from Europe. And now let's add all those new subsea cables that are now being planned to become operational in the next few years across the Mediterranean. It's not just the geographic location and the increase in data, it's also the collaboration between these companies with the rest of the industry that makes all this happen. So in order to prepare our digital infrastructure across the Mediterranean to be able to handle the future growth of our digital economies, as well as future applications like metaverse or the various application of artificial intelligence in its various forms, we need not just more traffic, but also we need more resilience and more redundancy across the Mediterranean. We see that Marseille continues to grow as the key hub, but also we see key strategic locations such as Barcelona now coming into play to be able to provide more landing opportunities for those cables, so that if, for example, you are based in, let's say, Valencia, and your content originates from Madrid, let's say Facebook content, and if something happens in the unlikely case close to Madrid, then your content will be automatically routed through Barcelona straight to your device without you even knowing. And indeed, with the majority of the traffic that goes into Europe coming into Marseille, this is not the most effective way to serve the populations of Central and Eastern Europe. So now we see markets like Genoa, Rome, and Sicily growing its importance across the digital infrastructure so that they can provide cheaper and more efficient ways for that traffic to reach our populations in Central Europe. And then we see places like Heraklion in Crete, as well as Athens, which are going to provide the new digital highways for that traffic so that that traffic can reach the populations of Eastern Europe. And then with Egypt acting as the key gateway for traffic to and outside of the Mediterranean Sea, then we have Tel Aviv in Israel as well that comes into play, being able to provide additional routes for that traffic to go in and out. So how can digital realty help in all of that? Before I go there, I just want to give you a different perspective with a little bit more visuals. So in red, you see the subsea cables that are connecting to the Mediterranean beginning of this year, and then the circle, the size of the circle corresponds to the amount of traffic. Now let's add all those new subsea cables that are being planned for the next few years. And then we see now the different markets, different cities coming into play and acting together. So the industry and the digital infrastructure of the Mediterranean is evolving from a few single locations that act more or less independently to more of a mesh interconnected network where each city complements the other one. So how is digital realty going to contribute to the further digitalization of our economies? By providing the meeting place where different companies and different technologies and data can come together. We're working closely with the key stakeholders from the different industries, subsea, terrestrial, internet exchanges, content and cloud providers, so that we can help their businesses grow and that we can support the growth of the digital economies in our operational markets today. Places like Madrid, Marseille, Zagreb, and Athens. But also to be able to enable this interconnected mesh, subsea mesh network, we're going to enter multiple new locations. We're very excited to build our first data center in Barcelona. We're also going to build in Rome. We're going to also enter Tel Aviv to be able to provide and enable that future of the digital economy. So we continue to invest in the growth of our digital economies so that we can stay connected as individuals and businesses 100% of the time to the internet, and so that we can stay connected to our loved ones as well, regardless of where they are. Thank you very much for your attention. I'll give you the chance to maybe ask a couple of questions, but I'm also very excited to have a very interesting panel coming up as well. Thank you very much. Please. Welcome on stage. And first of all, thank you for your time. I know that you have busy schedules. We know each other from different conferences and different meetings. I know how busy you are, so thank you for being here and talking to us about the Mediterranean. I'll give you maybe a minute each to introduce yourselves, your companies, and your involvement in the Mediterranean, starting with our lady on the panel.
Thank you, Victor, and thank you for inviting me today, and also as a Digital Realty, which is a long-term partner to IslaLink. Well, I'm Esther Garcés. I'm the CEO of a company named IslaLink. Talking about myself, I'm passionate about the digital business. I deal with the telecom business, half of my career in telecom business and half of it in digital transformation in companies like Telefonica, Rico, and Entity Data, formerly Everest. And I joined IslaLink 7 years ago. IslaLink is a neutral fiber company. We are a very high qualified team that we design, develop, and then operate fiber systems. Specialized mainly in subsea cables that we've discussed before. IslaLink is a 24-year-old company. We started with a project that connected the Balearic Island with mainland Spain, provided diversity over there, and since then we've developed more than 4,000 kilometers of subsea cables, especially in the Mediterranean. That's where we are really focused. And our last project especially is a system called Ionian, which connects Italy and Greece. And it's not only a subsea cable, but as well a terrestrial network that connects Milan, Rome in Italy with Athens and Thessaloniki in Greece. So our strategy is continue to keep developing new systems. We are supported in our development because we are a private company by our shareholder, which is a Canadian fund called Fiera Infrastructure.
Thank you. Steve, would you like to go next?
Hi, Steve Roberts. I work for Exit Infrastructure, which is one of the largest digital infrastructure platforms spanning Europe and the Atlantic. So we have a network that runs from Istanbul in the east to Lisbon in the west, and actually over the Atlantic into the US to Chicago. 34 countries, about 150,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable, most of that terrestrially, but we own 3 transatlantic cables and 3 cables in the Mediterranean as well. I think most people haven't heard of us. We don't serve end users. Our customers are the big international telecom providers like Telefonica, cloud and content companies like Salesforce, like Oracle, and then the cloud giants. Our business is connecting their data centers together and their data centers to the subsea cables. We are private equity owned. We're owned by a company called I2 Capital, which is based in Miami. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Damien?
Thank you, Victor. So hello, everybody. My name is Damien Bertrand. I have about 25 years of experience in the telco sector, and especially in the subsea cable world. For about 10 years, I was at IslaLink, so taking care of new subsea system, especially with the Balearic Island, the Canary Islands, Morocco, and Algeria. So setting up and then managing it. And my company is Afrix Telecom. So we are a company from Barcelona, specialized in between Europe and Africa, the interconnection. So we have 15 subsidiaries in Africa, taking care of both the terrestrial and subsea operations for that. And we are now building a new submarine cable system, which name is Medusa, which is going to be the biggest in the Mediterranean region. It will be more than 7,000 kilometers. And I will tell you a few words more in the next few minutes about it.
Okay. Well, while you're on the microphone, let me ask you, what's the main driver behind all those investments in subsea cables? Why is all of that happening now as opposed to 10 years ago? Is it just growth of data? What is this about?
Okay, on our side, at Medusa level, what we see is that 2 main drivers are capacity, I would say, and diversity. Usually, the international submarine cables coming from the Far East through the Middle East until Europe were having a few fiber pairs shared by a high count of consortium members. So it was fine as long as you share this capacity and it's enough. But today, some important North African countries already reach 3-4 tera. So this is the volume, and the growth is 40-45% per year. So in 5, 6, 7 years, it will be 20 tera, let's say. So those countries now, instead of capacity, they need a dedicated fiber pair. So this is a big change and a big driver for new subsea cable. And also your map we have just seen, if you take the last 10, 15 years, in the Western Mediterranean Sea, it was mainly Marseille, almost as unique landing point. So there is a need with Barcelona, with Genova in Italy, to have diversity on that. Those are the two main drivers, I would say.
Is there anything to add? And maybe comment on why is the Mediterranean so important on a global perspective as well?
Yes. There is 3 drivers, I believe, for the growth or for the reason to develop a subsea cable. 2 of them, there's not really new. This is the international connectivity and as well to serve the underserved regions like the islands, for example, that everybody wants to be connected. What is changed in those 2 drivers is the size, the volume of the need of the internet connection that already Damien and your presentation mentioned, of course, and the requirements from the end users. When we see ourselves what are our requirements and you add up all of this together, that sum up. And the third driver is the connectivity amongst data centers, which the increase of investments in data centers and so that accelerated the need for subsea cables. So the data centers and the subsea are completely connected. One growth together with the other. So those are the main reasons. And your presentation was very good to see the size and why the Mediterranean is really a focus on what we call a hub, and a focus on concentrated different regions. And the Mediterranean is attracting new data centers because the data wants to be close to the end user at the end, and is perfect to serve the nearest regions in Africa, like Damien said. So.
And I think one of the other big drivers that we're seeing now is AI. I mean, it's a buzzword, everyone's talking about AI. What that means to us as a telecoms company is actually a huge, huge increase in the data requirements. You know, we've had other drivers in the past, content, 4G, 5G, etc. I think AI is probably the biggest disruptor to our industry now. So, I mean, one of the largest cloud giants, household name, they're telling us that when they launch AI, they're going to need 10 times as many fiber optic cables as they've got today, 10 times as much bandwidth, just for their day one launch of their AI platform.
So these different applications of AI are going to drive a lot of bandwidth, but that traffic cannot stay on the seabed, of course, and it cannot stay in the data center. So how can you elaborate a little bit on the relationship between terrestrial networks and subsea cables?
Sure.
And why is it so important that these 2 industries are aligned?
Yeah. Actually, the map that you showed earlier was great, and if you guys are interested, there's an excellent website called submarinecablemap.com. If you're interested in subsea cables, check it out. It's a really useful resource. But when you look at the map of where all the cables are today, as we've already established, Marseille is a big hub today. You'll also see Sicily, a lot of cables landing in Sicily and southern Italy. And that's not because that's where the traffic needed to go. That's because they represented very good locations to build a subsea cable. Not too rocky, not too much sand, not too deep, not too shallow, not too much fishing activity. They were good places to land cables. So the cable's landing these hubs, but then you need companies like EXA and other terrestrial operators to backhaul that capacity from where it lands on the beach to the data centers. And typically the biggest data centers today are still in London, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, and Paris. That's changing as data centers get more distributed. But the role of people like EXA is to carry that traffic. And that requires quite a bit of investment. Most of our networks were built in the dot-com boom, so 23 years ago. And they're reaching capacity. So there's a huge amount of investment needed in the infrastructure and in the industry to actually upgrade our fiber optic cables. We're just recently upgrading our cables into Marseille. We're quadrupling the capacity and putting the very latest technology of fiber in there. And we have to repeat that in other places, like Sicily. We're now doing this in Barcelona, where Damien's new cable landing station is. And that's the second move that we see, or the second interaction with terrestrial providers like ourselves, is that in a move to diversify away from these existing hubs, Marseille, Sicily, Bari in southern Italy, there's a move by the industry that we can't have these places as single points of failure anymore. We have to start spreading the cables out more, because it could really impact the internet if significant things happen in these hubs. So we have to work with the subsea cable providers to find new locations to bring cables in, and Barcelona's a good example of that. We're seeing Genoa now also emerging as, you know, an alternative to Marseille, an alternative to Sicily. And I think it really affects the economics of a project, right? That if a subsea operator finds a new location to land a cable, the proximity of terrestrial network and terrestrial fiber optic cables to that landing location is really important. So there's a lot of cooperation. I mean, we worked on your cable, didn't we? And we're going to see more of this in the industry, right? That we're going to have to invest more in the terrestrial networks in able to support these new subsea locations as they develop. I mean, we're now investing in Crete with you guys, because we're seeing that evolve now as what's going to be a very high traffic landing location.
Yes, maybe if I may, just to give an example for all the people to understand well the real local impact it has. Let's take Barcelona. I believe it's a good example where we are. Since 1997, there was not a single new international cable landing here. And last year, 2 of them have landed in the north of the city of Barcelona. So those subsea cables, and then all the new data centers that are under construction here. So we need an infrastructure, let's say, where you interconnect the subsea cables, the wet part and the dry part of the terrestrial operators. And so there is a new infrastructure built last year in service. I mean, last year, we call the Barcelona Cable Landing Station. So 2 cables are already operated there. We see 2 other ones that are coming within 1 to 2 years, and more coming. So this infrastructure has been designed and built to house up to 8 subsea cables. So we go from 25 years without anyone to 2 more, and then it is starting. So what we have seen of the new data centers investment in Barcelona goes together with the new subsea capacities that are now landing here. That was the example I wanted to highlight.
Okay. And last time I checked the website of Medusa, you're landing in, let me see if I'm getting this right, in 11 different countries with more than 20 landing points. Is that correct?
Indeed. Indeed. So
what's the main challenge, or if you want to give us a few challenges that comes with a subsea cable project of that scale?
Okay. So maybe let's take Medusa as an example of a new cable for everyone to understand the challenges. Maybe I'm going to describe it a little bit first to give a few details. So indeed, we are going to land in 11 countries and 21 landing sites. So the countries on the South European side, from west to east, are Portugal, Spain, France, Italy, Greece, and Cyprus. On the North African side, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, that has just signed, and Egypt. So those are the countries we are going to interconnect. So we are going to have a high level of connectivity, and we have already a high level of challenges. If I could say, we have 4 different main types of challenges: commercial, financial, technical, and regulatory. Financial side, no, first commercial side, sorry. You need to have operators as customers. And the tricky part is that you have to convince them to commit, to be on board before starting your building. So this is what we call the anchor customers. So you have to work on that, and you have to reach a certain level of pre-sales, we call it, in order to make it happen. And that's very, if you cannot make it, there is no cable. That's very simple. So this is the commercial side. Another challenge is the financial one. Today, it's not an easy task with today's financial environment to be able to have the capital expenditure means to build your cable on top of the pre-sales I've just mentioned. So you have to work on that. And I would like to highlight on this point the role the European Union and the European Investment Bank have been playing in the last 2-3 years through grants and loans in order to support different European initiatives at subsea cables level. That's an important step, and they are backing several projects. Technical level, it's also very important. So even we are working with Alcatel Submarine Network, which is the world leader in subsea cables. But even if you have such a partner, you have to have your own very experienced technical team in order to be able to design your cable, to issue requests for quotation, to negotiate that, to close a contract. And then once you are what we call contract in force, when you move forward to build your cable, you have to lead also technically all the aspects of first the survey, then the implementation of your cable. So you can imagine with 7,000 kilometers and 21 landing points, we multiply the technical challenges, let's say. So this is an important side also of the project. And the last challenge I would mention is regulatory. For example, what we call permit in principle is the concession to use the seabed to install your cable and then to operate it. And to get it, you have to perform several studies, environmental ones also included, and it takes 2 to 3 years in each European landing to get it. So again, we have to work a lot on it in order to be granted such concessions. So I would say those are the 4 main challenges we have.
Anything to add from your side, Esther?
Well, I
Since you
think
have subsea
Damian
cables as well?
summarized very well the complexity of this type of projects, but if I can add something, well, you're facing all variety of issues. We have, as I said, 24 years of experience of doing that, so this is the regular challenges that we're facing. But if I have to add something, I think it's very important to have an engineering team like we do to find a project that provides diversity and robustness. If I put an example of the previous project that I talked about, Ionian, connected Italy with Greece, we found a landing spot diverse from Marseille and from Sicily and from Bari, which is Crotone, which is in the south of Italy. So we had to complement it with the terrestrial networks with our partners here in the table. But as well, the robustness of the network is very important. We've chosen Crotone because the Ionian Sea is mostly deep waters, and the Mediterranean has this challenge that it has very shallow waters, most of the of the sea. So the cable could suffer from breaks from the activity of the ships. So we have to prevent how to do those breaks, either by finding deep waters like we did, or to bury the cable, which increment is more challenging from a financial perspective because it's more expensive. And obviously, if I have to add an additional challenge that we're facing now is because of the high deployment of subsea cables, there is a lack of resources, especially of the vessels that are deploying the cables. So they are really scared right now. So we are facing this issue that we face in the project. We have to find the slot of the vessel, and if we lose the slot, so we have to wait an additional year for having this.
Can you also give us your thoughts on what's the social and environmental impact of all those new subsea cables that are coming into play now?
Well, in that, maybe I'm too biased here, but I'm very positive. I only can think in positive impact in deploying subsea cable. Maybe for you that not really in the business and you cannot imagine how to deploy a subsea cable. A subsea cable is like this size, 2 centimeters or 5 centimeters. So the impact is minor. Fiber is like a hair, and a hair can transmit half of the traffic in Spain. So with the subsea cable, 12 fiber pairs, 24 fiber pairs, you can imagine how much you can transfer, and the subsea is really minor, as I said, the impact. If you want to see how subsea cable is deployed, I have to say that we did a documentary of the deployment of Ionian. It's on our website, and I think it's good to see how is this done. And we prevent to try to impact in the subsea by doing a very complex analysis on biodiversity, environmental, and a big complex to get all this permitting. Otherwise, we couldn't get it. And additionally, for example, when we wanted to deploy our cable, we had to wait 4 months for the deployment because it was the hatching season of the turtles. So even that, we are taking care of this for this impact. And the positive impact I see is the more we get diversity, the more we get better services, and the more we provide infrastructure to digitalize our economy that could benefit in the rest of the economy as well.
So one of the key takeaways is that the digital infrastructure is indeed getting better. So what does that mean for the typical enterprise or for me sitting at home? Steve, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I mean, I think actually Robert conveyed very eloquently what the benefits to the local or the regional economies are from this kind of digital infrastructure investment. And I think that filters across the entire economy, actually down to consumers as well. Better digital infrastructure means better access to digital services, better quality digital services, higher bandwidths at home, on your home internet, higher bandwidths on your 5G internet. And ultimately, investment in digital infrastructure is a healthy thing. You need a number of competitors to actually create a healthy telecoms environment to actually provide best value, so lower cost to the consumers, and also choice. And I think actually the coastal Mediterranean region has actually done very well for infrastructure investment because of the subsea cables that land in the Mediterranean, in the coastal regions. There has been a lot of investment for a long time from companies like EXA and others. And I think they've actually benefited, they've had an upside benefit compared to other countries that are landlocked. So for example, Eastern European landlocked countries have not had the same level of fiber optic infrastructure investment that certainly the Western Mediterranean has. I think what's important is for the Med to keep its edge. Actually, there's a number of other regions that are trying to take data center traffic and build the digital economy, particularly the Nordics, where energy is very cheap. It's all renewable. I think the Med, if it needs to focus on keeping an edge here, the Med region really does need to focus on low-cost energy and 100% renewable energy, and that will continue to absorb demand in the region.
Also, I would like to say that what we bring as benefits, I would say two new, if I can say, benefits for the Northern African countries in the Med. First, Medusa is 25 years lasting. The cable design of a subsea cable is 25 years. So when we are connecting the North African countries, we will be there 25 years in the telecommunication field for the companies, for the citizens, for the economy in general. But what is important for us also is that one generation means that the kids today of Morocco, of Algeria, of Tunisia, of Libya, of Egypt, those kids are going really to benefit for one generation of a new, completely different, and at capacity and diversification level of international boundaries. So this is really going to be important for their own development, the first point. And the second point I would like to talk, we play a role at education level. 3 weeks ago, we were in Brussels. We signed an agreement with the Commissioner Oliver Varelli of the European Union and with GÉANT. GÉANT is the European Research and Education Network. So we have signed an agreement, and thanks to this one, we are going to interconnect all, first, between themselves, the North African universities through Medusa fiber pair, and then we will also connect it to the European Research and Education Network. So I think it's a big step forward for research and education field that we can collaborate on this Med.
Okay, we have just a minute left, so I would like to ask the audience and see if there are any questions. Please.
Good afternoon. Please forgive my ignorance about the subject, but I learned a lot today. I would like to know about the satellite transmission of signals. You are concentrating about infrastructure, physical infrastructure. Would that be a critical danger for your companies in the future? Let's say 10 or 15 years from now. Now, we heard about the Elon Musk project and other projects. Would that affect you actually, or different things we're talking about?
I can take that one. So I think it's different things. So certainly in our industry, we provide the very big pipes between data centers. So we're about moving massive amounts of data. All of us here, that's what we do. Big amounts of data between data centers like Digital Realties. The satellite explosion, whether that's Starlink with Elon Musk or Kuiper, which is AWS's, Amazon's venture, they're very similar. They're about providing internet access to end users. So that's about providing either mobile internet access or access to locations, geographies that don't have any fiber access today. Could be rural not spots, it could be developing countries. So they're really addressing two very different needs. And actually, satellite is not a threat to our business. I don't think it's a threat to your business. In fact,
they could be complementary.
Yeah.
To reach the end user, you need to have the end networks, or that can be terrestrial or satellite. But we're talking here about the main trunks, the main network. And now, I think you mentioned that, Victor, that the internet traffic is more than 98% go through our networks. And they're not going through satellites because it's not as effective as our networks.
We have time for one more quick question. Okay, in the absence of one, thank you very much for being here with us and for sharing your insights from your experience. Much
Thank you.
appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Buen día.
Thank you.
Is the mic on? Now it is. So, thanks everybody for attending this. I'm Alexandros Bechrakis. I'm Managing Director of Digital Realty for Greece, another Mediterranean country. You know, also beautiful, but I always love being in Barcelona and in Spain in general. I'm very happy today to have with us Carmen Prada, IBM Cloud Director for many countries around Mediterranean. And Carmen, if you may take a minute to introduce yourself to the audience, I would appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the invitation, first of all. So I'm currently the Cloud Platform Director for SPGIs, Portugal, Spain, Greece, and Israel. My whole career has been in IT technologies. Now, I mean, I'm learning a lot today because we also, I mean, of course, rely very much on all these technologies. And I'm happy also to share my views on the application, the infrastructure that is running on this infrastructure you were covering in the previous slots.
Again, thanks for coming. The whole idea of our discussion, and to the benefit of the audience here, is we're trying here with this three set of discussions to correlate towards the digital economy, data centers, connectivity, and users of these combined resources of data centers and connectivity towards you, towards your companies, towards the environment that is relevant to your business, be it private or public. And some main constructions, main concepts in this is variations of cloud. Everybody's talking about cloud and AI for a lot of time. So I will just take a moment to make sure that we are on the same page on the following. What is public cloud? Infrastructure that end users buy, use from providers like IBM that typically are in data centers like ours. This is a public cloud. What is a private cloud? The traditional way of architecture, of IT architecture, where companies have their own systems. Again, nowadays, this is typically happens in our data centers, but it's their own equipment, their own support. And what is hybrid? The combination of both for the same company with connectivity in between. So you being one of the prominent, let's say, players in cloud technologies, what is the level of adoption you see on cloud?
Yeah, well, I mean, public or cloud, let's say like this, and then we will discuss about the different types of cloud. But the cloud market is growing double digits. According to Gartner, for example, they just published that next year the IT spending of public cloud will be 20% more. At the end, cloud is a critical platform for enterprises to support their digital journey. When you think about digital journey, this means that our companies, our customers, needs more than one cloud. But at the same time, they still have their on-premises infrastructure, their private cloud, because, I mean, they have to deal with security, with regulators, with the data gravity that is also there in their environments. So at the end, there is a mix of environments they have to deal with, and it's what we call the hybrid cloud. In the market, in the enterprise segment, is the type of cloud that is running nowadays. So this complexity is huge. From IBM, we've been addressing this complexity with what we call the hybrid cloud platform, which means to try to build a layer that orchestrates all these different environments, manage, and also, which is the most important thing, is it helps to make the application portable around these different layers. So, coming to your question, I mean, the cloud that is really growing is the hybrid cloud type. And this is double digit. Sometimes, I mean, in the enterprise world, people don't know that even public cloud is decreasing in some industries, but hybrid cloud is growing. Because they don't start from nothing, they start from yeah.
And also it's always, as everybody is trying to find the right balance between all the tools you can use to make your work more effective and more cost efficient. So using public cloud or private cloud or a combination at the level that makes sense for your business is typically more beneficial for anybody's business. And thanks for that, I think is very helpful. Trying to address an audience here that is not, we come from technology and sometimes, you know, it's all we think about. But at the end, it's important to see how the technology impacts everybody's business, how people transform their business in order to remain and become even more competitive towards their environment. And talking about Mediterranean, which is something that we're trying to make better here with this excellent event, this is even more relevant because, you know, typically Mediterranean is not, you know, the leading, let's say, technology area of the world. So we have more way to catch up, let's say, and more opportunity, I would say, at the same time. So, do you use any metrics trying to judge, you know, the impact of the digitization through cloud, in your case, to the economy?
Well, it's a very interesting question and sometimes very difficult to measure. What we can say is from our experience, our own experience. We just opened our MCR in Madrid in July. 3 data centers working in a synchronous way, Las Rozas, Alcobendas, and Madrid City. It was a huge investment, of course, for us, and it means a lot for the Mediterranean area. And what we can say is that we have created hundreds of jobs. Also, I was reading some of the studies, research about that, and you also mentioned, I mean, in the IGC white paper, that the Madrid Digital Hub will bring the Madrid area, will make the PIB grow more than 8,000 million and create more than 2,000 jobs. So I really see these numbers very, very, very clear, very visible. We have experienced that in our case with our MCR in Madrid, just started in July.
Very good. And this also correlates with what Robert said in the opening presentation of this track, that our studies show that there is a very strong correlation between investments in our field and the GDP growth of the area. Now, this doesn't really include the IT part. The IT part, I mean, I don't have, somebody should make a study, probably has. I would expect it to be even more, because the density of computing, let's say, and of relevance to your customers is even better. And I mean, we could have 100 customers in one data center. One cloud provider could have 1,000 customers in the same data center, in the same infrastructure. So they could have more profound impact in the economy in a very positive way. Good. Going further, you have a public infrastructure that is pretty general, but I'm sure that you focus on some kind of customers more that makes sense for you and for your business. What kind of customers do you?
I think we have, all of us here have that in common, which is enterprise. We are not in the consumer world. We are not, selling devices, of gaming devices, or selling maybe books, like other examples of hyperscalers. We are very much focused on enterprises, which means that sometimes people don't know if we have a cloud or not, because our customers know, but the general people in the street maybe are not very much aware. We are very focused on enterprises. It's our main segment. We are specialized in sectors that are highly regulated, which means not only but mainly financial services and public sector. For that, for example, in financial services, we have there our IBM Cloud for Financial Services. That brings them the controls and meet the requirements that this sector needs. These controls are very important because they have to show they comply with the regulation, the data sovereignty is fulfilled, of course, security. And these controls are being updated, are being discussed within our community of IBM Cloud for Financial Services Council. It's very key for us. It's more than 140 experts that belongs to the financial sector. And they, of course, regulators are involved. So we monitor all the regulators. We see how our customer has to fulfill with these needs. And we update, of course, these controls to allow our customers to run their mission-critical applications in our IBM Cloud.
Very interesting. Okay. Mediterranean has a lot of enterprises, but has also a lot of small and medium companies, which of course benefit when using infrastructures that are shared, because at the end we talked about sustainability, and I know that is a big part of your